Joining me in my home studio right now, Dan Koon, the Deputy Commissioner of the South Carolina Human Affairs Commission, and welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Well, it's great to be here, Koko. Thank you for inviting me.
So during this COVID-19 health crisis, we're going to be talking about how the South Carolina Human Affairs Commission can help. But first, if you would, introduce yourself to everyone.
Sure. So again, I'm Dan Koon with the South Carolina Human Affairs Commission. I've been with the agency 30 years. It's the most wonderful agency in state government. We serve a very noble cause, and part of what we do is we provide fairness and opportunity to all people across the state. We enforce laws, employment laws, housing discrimination laws, public accommodation, the South Carolina Pregnancy Accommodation Act. And one thing I like for folks to know is that as it relates to those protected bases under the law, there are 7 protected bases in employment, and those are race, color, religion, national origin, sex, which would include like harassment, pregnancy, also age discrimination, and you have to be over 40 years of age, and disability. As it relates to COVID-19, COVID-19 is currently not considered a disability. Now, we don't know all of the impacts of the disease, but it certainly could come about where, maybe later on it could be labeled a disability, or it might lead something into a disability. But right now, it is considered a virus, which is not a disability. However, there can be issues that impact South Carolina Human Affairs law as it relates to employment. Particularly, let's take, for instance, like the basis of national origin. So we know that this disease started out in China. There's a terrible outbreak in Italy and, of course, in all parts of the country. But let's say your employer here in the United States was just, laying off all people affiliated with the Chinese national origin or the Italian national origin. Then that would be protected under our employment basis. So you cannot fire, lay off an employee because of their national origin. But if an employer thinks, oh, well, these folks are Chinese, they're, that's where the disease started, so we're going to lay off all the Chinese, employees as it relates to national origin. And that's not legal. That would be protected under our law.
Gotcha. Can you tell us what the steps would be if you want to go ahead and file a claim?
Sure. So we are open, and you can go to our website, www.schac.sc.gov. You can also call us at 737-7800. So that we have our phones manned. We, are monitoring the website. You can go on there and file a complaint. What I would encourage people to do, should they believe that they've been treated unfairly as it relates to one of these protected classes, they must file with our agency within 180 days from the date of the alleged violation. So let's say, that you were laid off on March the 1st. Then you have 180 days to file with our agency, or up to 300 days with us. We will take it after the 180 day, but we have to send it to the EEOC in order for that case to be processed, and they would investigate the complaint after 180 days.
Okay.
So there are two magic numbers: file within 180 days, or at least by 300 days.
Okay. And you said, again, that's done on the website for right now.
Yes, ma'am. You can file on the website or call us, and we'll send you some information.
Tell us, is there anything that we can do to help the commission during this pandemic?
Well, there are. We have community relations councils in the state of South Carolina, and we would like to form more councils. So if you go to our website, you can see a section that deals with community relations. Anita Dantzler is our director of our community relations department. She would, love to help you create a community relations council in South Carolina. So these community relations councils are if there are issues involving discrimination in your community. You would come to us in employment, housing, public accommodations. But that community relations council, they kind of monitor the community. They know what's going on in the community. And if there are certain issues that, relate to one of those protected bases, such as race, then, that community can come together, have dialogue. And in fact, Anita has a program called No Blame, No Shame. And it brings people together in the community to talk about, this very difficult subject of race that sometimes people are afraid to talk about, angry to talk about, but we provide a nice, warm, comfortable setting so that we can engage in good civil dialogue. And that's something that's very important that we need to do throughout South Carolina, to just have this good, dialogue as it relates to particular matters that the Human Affairs Commission investigates, such as race discrimination.
So this is something similar to maybe like a neighborhood watch, having your own council within the neighborhood. That's
a good analogy. I like that. Yes, it is in a sense like a neighborhood watch. There are different community relations councils. There's one in Columbia. There's one in Greenville. McCormick County has one. There's one in the city of Rock Hill. But we would like to have more councils established around South Carolina. So if you're interested, anyone out there in the radio listening audience that might be interested in forming a council, go to our website, look at that, give Anita Dantzler, our director, a call.
Okay, sounds pretty good. Yeah, I might even do one for my neighborhood.
That would be wonderful.
Again, we're talking with Dan Koon from the South Carolina Human Affairs Commission. And before we go, anything else you'd like to add, especially as it pertains to COVID-19?
Well, as it relates to the COVID virus, one thing I'd like to add. So, for instance, we need to look at other bases, such as age, such as pregnancy. An employer, if you're over 40, and of course, people who are over 60 years of age are considered more higher risk as it relates to this disease. So if your employer says, well, you're high risk, I can't, you can't work here, that could be employment discrimination as it relates to your age. The same idea with pregnancy. You're pregnant, you're at high risk, then you can't work at our agency, and they lay you off. Again, that could fall under our law, and if anyone's been subjected to that type of treatment, I would encourage you to contact the Human Affairs Commission.
What if they don't actually say that dialogue?
You're actually laid off. Well, again, if you believe or feel that you've been subjected to discrimination, contact us and we can help you through that process.
Okay, sounds good, because a lot of times they're not going to come out and say that.
Absolutely. And that's why we have investigators here at the Human Affairs Commission to gather data, statistics, information, policies, witnesses. We look at all that information. We are impartial, Koko. We're neutral. We don't take sides. We're enforcing the law. So we do a thorough investigation when it comes to these complaints.
Awesome.
And we look at all sides before we make a determination.
Very good, very good. Dan, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, if anyone has any questions or if they'd like to check out your website, give them that information.
It is www.schhac.sc.gov.
Got it. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you, Koko. Appreciate you having us. We're ready to come back again anytime you need to talk to us.